Well, folks, is could there be could there possibly be a big blockbuster trade for the Washington Commanders, or are we just blowing smoke? Let's talk about it coming up. And welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs podcast. My name is Greg. I am your host, along with my buddy, my co-host, Brandon Scott. And folks, if you haven't already subscribed, you need to consider subscribing to this channel. We try to release some good material. And of course, for those who are new to this channel, it's dedicated to news and commentary for the Washington Commanders. Hopefully, if you're down with that, like I said, please consider subscribing. Also, when you do subscribe, make sure you do have that notification bell checked. I know some of our subscribers will be like, I haven't heard anything from you in a while. And it's like, well, do you have notifications checked? Because YouTube should be sending you some notifications. So just make sure you have that checked. That way you won't miss any video releases. But if not, just check back on our channel because we have some exciting stuff coming out. Of course, we've already mentioned it on Twitter. We're going to have a special guest tomorrow evening as we record, and then we will release that recording as soon as we are done for public consumption. You're not going to want to miss that video at all. So with that said, we're going to get into this video. So Brandon, I kind of hinted around, could there be a blockbuster trade? Well, there's been rumors. And I'm not trying to be clickbaity. I'm not trying to say this is going to happen because honestly, I don't think it will. But there's been some talk that maybe Brandon Aiyuk might be interested in leaving San Francisco. Now, he's going to be playing on his fifth-year option. And it looks like that there's a possibility that maybe if the 49ers do sign him, they're probably going to wait and see what he does in his fifth year and then see about signing him. Or will they? Who knows? But certainly Brandon Aiyuk would be a huge pickup for the Commanders. And just briefly on this, I went to the 49ers website. Now, according to Adam Schefter, what Brandon Aiyuk was saying as far as he doesn't feel like they want him there is not what the 49ers are saying. 49ers are saying they absolutely want him back. But at what price? At what price? Yeah, certainly speculation has been rampant regarding the contract negotiations between San Francisco 49ers and wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, especially after Aiyuk took social media and seemingly declared he was unwanted by the team. Quoting Brandon, said they don't want me back. But according to Adam Schefter, that was not true. The 49ers very much want him back, but at what cost we don't know. Of course, Albert Breer from Sports Illustrated said there's a lot of noise out there, most of it's uninformed, but about the San Francisco 49ers position on receiver Brandon Aiyuk and the possibility that things are devolving to the point where the second team All-Pro could be traded. I wouldn't listen to that, not yet at least. So the thing is, they haven't closed the door on this, Brandon. Right? I mean,
yeah.
They're saying, "Oh, this is just rubbish." At least right now, that we think it's rubbish, but we're not going to completely close the door on this. Now, I did read another article that was talking about what the Commanders could do if they wanted to do this big trade to bring Aiyuk to the Commanders to reunite him with Jane Daniels. And one option that they talked about was to trade Diami Brown to San Francisco and plus for a second and fourth round pick for the services of Brandon Aiyuk. I would say this, Brandon. I would say if he was maybe like in his third year, and he still had like a couple of years left on this rookie contract, I would consider that trade. But considering that he's playing on his fifth year, why would the Commanders want to give up any kind of draft capital
Yeah.
and a player when they could simply wait until that this fifth year is over and then go out and bid for his services then?
I would say that, and that's a really good assessment and good question, man, because you bring up good points. But the reason why I think they could pull the trigger is because Jaden Daniels being comfortable sooner than later is important, because the sooner he's comfortable in the system with the organization and get things rolling, I think that it really is a good thing on the organization, because get him started quickly, get him comfortable, because through OTAs, through the mini camp, you see the potential, you see the arm, you see how good he can be, and chemistry matters, relationships matter in sports, right? The fact that him and Brandon Aiyuk go all the way back to Arizona State, not only they're friends, but the familiar with each other's play style. You know what I mean? And I think that if you look at this wide receiver room, when you brought up the trade for De'Ami Brown, what can you really expect from De'Ami Brown at this point? I mean, I know they're hoping that he has that breakout campaign, but you know, you look at Brandon Aiyuk, he would definitely make this wide receiver core better. And they're already a really good receiving core. I mean, Terry McLaurin's, true number one in my opinion. Jahan Dotson, I've made it known that I believe he's best served as a slot receiver, even though he's shown that he has the capability to be that number two. But another point is, Luke McCaffrey, he hasn't played yet. I definitely think that with him, lots of potential, but why throw him out to the wolves right away? Develop him. Bring a guy like Brandon Aiyuk in, put Jahan Dotson at the slot. Even if you retain De'Ami Brown, you have a fourth receiver who he's shown he can play in glimpses. He can definitely play. And then, put Luke McCaffrey at 5 and let him develop. Just give him reps, let him develop. And when it's time for him to step up, then he can step up. But, I'm with you. Why spend the draft capital to pick up a guy where if he's not part of the long-term vision in San Francisco, you can just go ahead and sign him. But, we got the cap room. So I think that, the cap room's not a problem with re-signing him. And yeah, like I said, if you can make Jaden Daniels that much comfortable in DC, you make that move, because that makes this team that much better. Now, obviously, we still have holes. We know that. I mean, what can we really expect out of the cornerback position? Offensive line, we're about to talk about it in a little bit. What can we expect out of the offensive line? Yeah, there was upgrades, but still, there's still a lot of question marks. But the offense would be nasty, man. I mean, with Eckler and B. Rob at running back and Chris Rodriguez, you had a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. One, he makes your wide receiver core and your team better. But two, the familiarization and that relationship and that chemistry he has with Jaden Daniels, it counts, man, because that's the biggest hurdle for the Commanders this season, is build that chemistry, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball and as a team overall. So, I think you make that move. I think you make that move because you can pick up a guy who is a future piece. You got the cap room. You can definitely re-sign him this year to an extension, and you could definitely be a long-term piece. So, I'm willing to spend draft capital to acquire him, because I think that long-term, he makes his team that much better, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, I definitely understand, because one thing I think about on one hand, right? If you bring Brandon Aiyuk in, suddenly, to me, this rivals the talent of what we had at the wide receiver core back in the 80s and early 90s with the posse, right? Some people were saying that when we had Pierre Garcon, Deshaun Jackson, and Jameson Crowder, that was the best wide receiving core that we've had in a while. But honestly, I think this would probably be the best that we've had in 25 plus years. And we've had some really good receivers to come through Washington since the time of the posse. So, I kind of get it in the way, this is a receiver that obviously Jaden Daniels is very well aware of. He's very comfortable with, played with him in college and things like that. I guess my only pause with this, of course, is if we make the trade now, right? You're giving up a player. Diami Brown, not really. At this point, I'm not really too worried about giving up Diami Brown because I think we would definitely come out on the bigger end of the stick on that. The draft capital is a little concern for me, especially a second rounder. I like having our draft picks. I really do because I want this team to continue to build through the draft. So I'm a little concerned on that part. The other thing that I'm concerned with is you give all that up to get his services in the fifth year, and then you're going to have to turn around and pay him a monster contract because he's asking for a monster contract. So not only are you giving up a player and draft picks, but then you got to turn around and sign him to this huge deal. Whereas if you're patient, maybe you're able to sign. You'll probably still have to wind up signing him to a monster contract, but at least maybe you're able to keep those draft picks intact. So that's the only reason why I'm torn on the idea of bringing him in is basically keeping our draft picks intact, and I'm all prepared because I mean come on, we know we're going to have to pay these guys, right? If they're going to be the best in the league, they're going to get paid, and they should be. So I'm not too concerned about that. But when it does come to giving up draft picks, giving up the future for somebody who can come in now and play, I see it on both sides. So I wouldn't be completely upset if they did it, but let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Hold on just a second here. Um, just to folks, this is not breaking news, but I just wanted to let all you guys know. Of course, we have Joe Theismann coming with us tomorrow night. He thought it was tonight, so he called me, and then he realized, whoop, had the wrong day. So let me just text him back real quick. Uh,
Well, I guess while you're texting, man, I'll say this: you kind of swayed me. Yeah, the draft picks. Yeah, I get it. I am a little hesitant to get rid of draft picks so early, and we're not really rebuilding, but draft picks are very important. So that's one thing I do see as kind of an obstacle for Brandon Aiyuk. But I think that any potential move, you have to be transparent with his agent and be like, look, man, if we're gonna spend draft capital, then we want him to sign an extension, and because in to a certain degree, he's not gonna get a huge extension because realistically, we still have to re-sign at some point Jahan Dotson, B. Rob if he has that year. We had to, we still have guys that we want to retain long term. So I'm kind of with you on that. Yeah, you kind of swayed me. Like once I kind of thought about it, the draft picks, I'm kind of hesitant to move. But if a player that we currently have, like a De'Ami Brown, could maybe be a piece that can take away the second, maybe give them a fourth. I don't have a problem with a fourth, but a second is I don't know if I want to spend a second. But I mean that receiving core, man, would be nasty. Would be a nasty receiving core, man. Because I'd say the one thing I do like about Brandon Aiyuk is his best ability is availability. I mean, if you look at games played and games started, all 4 years since 2020. I mean, 2020 he played 12, started 11. But after that, 2021 played 17, started 16. 2022 played 17, started 17. And then last year he only missed one game. So I mean, he's a guy who doesn't get hurt. He's available, and I think that's one thing I like about him. So yeah, I'm with you. You kind of swayed me a little bit because I actually thought about it. I was like, yeah, I'm with you. I don't know if I really want to give up a second round pick because again, I'm with you, Greg. I think any building we do is going to be through the draft, man, and then free agency or via trade are going to be supplemental ads. So yeah, I'm very hesitant to move a second round pick. Now, if they're willing to take a fourth and below, I don't have a problem with that, but a second is a little too high. And I think that we might have some flexibility as far as a potential deal with this for the 49ers because even though it's kind of murky whether they want them, whether they don't want them, it's kind of up in the air. Both sides kind of saying this and that. But I mean, if they indeed want to move him, then they might be like, okay, we'll hold off for the second. We'll take a third or fourth and a receiver back. So we'll definitely see. But one area we kind of talked about was left tackle. And
Yes.
to kind of move on real quick, man, I looked at this article from David Bakhtiari, man, and he said that the last 3 years he played hurt. And if you look at the games played and games started, obviously he was a guy that was always available. I mean, 2013 started every game. Same thing with 2014, 16, 18, 19, and then he only missed a couple games in 15 and a couple games in 17. But things changed in 2021 where he only played one game and started one game, and that's when the injury started. So I'm gonna ask you this, Greg, real quick. He said that the knee is healthy and he would like to play 2 to 3 more seasons. Now, right now, it's up in the air who's going to start at left tackle. Brandon Coleman has been getting reps with the first team, but right now, it's still in the air. Would you be willing to give him a 1 year prove it deal to see if he could be that guy for left tackle and give us time to kind of develop Brandon Coleman?
Yeah, because until I've seen Brandon Coleman play, I don't know what we have with
Yeah.
him. So if we have somebody who could come in and solidify that position for at least a year, maybe a couple of years, I'm all for that. Because I still feel like that position is so wide open that we really don't know who's going to be holding that left tackle position come week one. Now, I've heard some really good things about Brandon Coleman, but I haven't heard anything, at least for my out of my own ears, I have not heard anything just yet in terms of he has definitely won that position outright. I don't think anybody has. And it may be a revolving door in that position too. It may be something where you're going to have to, you're going to have to keep rotating guys and rotating lineups until you get the right lineup, because we really don't know how this lineup's going to play. We do feel like we're solidified at the center position. We know on the right side, at least for now, we feel like we're pretty solid with. Kazumi is pretty solid on the right guard side. Wiley, you and I, not very high on him. A lot of people aren't. But then again, this is going to be kind of a new offensive line with different protections, and it's going to be spread out a little bit. So maybe it fits the playing style of Wiley a little bit better than what he had to deal with last year. Who knows? I'm willing to look at that because I think that left tackle position is going to be extremely important. As far as the offensive line, I've always said this. Now I can't wait. This might be something if we have time, I'll ask Joe about this. Because of course he got to play behind the Hogs, so I mean that was a treat for him, right? But I would like to know from him, like, in my opinion, left tackle is the number one position on that offensive line, especially if you have a right-handed quarterback. And then the second most important position is center, because usually that center is going to be the one that helps to call the protections, to get everybody lined up correctly and things like that, and to really help the younger quarterbacks, kind of gel and learn the protections as well, and also to learn how to audible out of those protections. So it remains to be seen. I still feel like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I just don't think we have our long-term answer at left tackle yet. But that's only because I haven't seen Brandon Coleman play. So I want to see how he does. But that's going to be certainly left tackle, but the entire offensive line, that's going to be the key to really getting this offense going. But I will say this, with all of the team building situations and what do you call them, just the exercises that Dan Quinn and company installed to help these guys on the offensive line, on the defensive line, to all learn how to work together. There's something to that. That really works. I mean, it may not. I know we saw videos and pictures of these guys kind of like all together holding up this huge log or whatever it was and trying to kind of walk with that thing. But people don't realize team building exercises like that really works
Yeah.
because it mentally connects you with that guy beside of you. So if we can get these guys mentally connected with each other, kind of start understanding what their tendencies are when they're in, run or pass protection, that
Yep.
goes a long way. So now let's also see how our offensive line coach is able to develop these guys. Not really the most exciting offensive coach that we had picked up in the offseason. Especially if we looked at how the Giants' offensive line was. But hey, we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But yeah, I mean, overall, offensive line, wide receivers, you're going to see an improved team. You're at least going to see a team that's playing together, that's
Yeah.
fighting, that's working hard. And in the wise words of Joe Gibbs, you're going to see guys out there fighting their guts out,
Yeah.
playing their guts out. So you're going to see a lot of that, and I can't I can't repeat it enough that Dan Quinn has really he was the best choice for head
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
In the end, he was the best choice for head coach with all the things that he's doing for team building, getting these guys together. These guys have bought in, and they want to play for him, and that's half the battle right there. So I'm
Yeah.
psyched about it, as well as of course I'm psyched about our recording tomorrow night with Joe, who Joe thought it was tonight, and honestly, if he had had time, I would have said, "Hey, let's go ahead and record with him tonight." But
Let's roll, right?
yeah, let's roll. I'm excited about it. Hey, he could come back tomorrow night if he wants to and record with us. That's fine. Hey, if he wants to be a regular centerpiece on here, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Um, I'm just excited about having Joe on here. And I'll just say this for those who didn't get to watch him play, um, he was he was a solid. I mean, he was a fantastic quarterback.
Oh yeah.
Um, I mean, go back on YouTube and watch some of those old games. You will see that he was very athletic. Joe could take off and run if he had to. He's very accurate with his passing. He had, I always felt he had a very good touch on his passes, very receiver friendly passes. Compared to like later on when Jay Schrader took over for him, Jay Schrader had like this huge arm, and he
Yeah.
could throw that football for like 300 yards, but wasn't always the most accurate guy. But I mean, he would sling it. And Joe was a little bit more of a field general, in my opinion. He had that offensive click. So just very knowledgeable guy. Go back and watch some of the specials of those Super Bowl years with the Redskins to kind of understand Joe. But he's a great guy. I'm looking forward to talking with him. I know Brandon sucked about it as well, and
Oh
we
yeah.
so folks, this is all about us trying to bring you the best content we possibly can, getting some of these legends in here to just chop it up with them and just see their thoughts on what's going on with the Commanders. Maybe a little reminiscence of the old days, but we're gonna really enjoy it. So, Brandon, with that said, man, so to summarize, Aiyuk, I'll take him if the price is okay.
Yeah.
If not, I'm willing to go and take the chance after his fifth year, and I'm willing to try anything at left tackle. So I think that's where I stand tonight. So what else you got for us, Brandon?
I'm with you, man. I think that it kind of summarized for me too. Is Brandon Ayuk, if it's reasonable, right? If it's reasonable, I could see that move. But if not, don't gamble the future for an uncertain present, right? That's kind of where I'm at. And the same thing with David Bacteria, man. 1 year prove it deal, I wouldn't mind as long as the knee is 100% good to go. But I'll say this, making the comment about Dan Quinn and doing like log drills. We did it in the Army, man, and and that's part of camaraderie and building up as a unit. Working together as a unit. So when you see stuff like that, where you're doing like, because we used to do log, we call it log PT, where everybody at the same time in unison will pick up a log, and you see stuff. I mean, if you see any videos about the SEAL school, they do that. So it's a big military thing. So when you see that, it tells you that you're right. We got the right coach, because not only are you building up chemistry and building up camaraderie as far as a team, man, you're manning these guys up, right? Like you're going out here, So I like what I see from Dan Quinn. I love his persona. I'll be honest with you. Hat backwards, ready to work. Seems like a player's coach, but a player's coach doesn't hold going to go hold his guys accountable. So I'm gonna shut up now because I'm very excited. But I'm with you, man. I think that we found the right coach.
Agreed. Agreed. I think we definitely found the right coach. I'm excited about the upcoming season. Training camp's going to be here before we know it. So, folks, just get ready. Football is definitely around the corner. Well, folks, that's pretty much all we have for this evening. We will release this in just a little bit for you. And like I said, please be on the lookout for our podcast tomorrow evening, as we will welcome legendary quarterback Joe Theismann to the Washington Football Maniacs. So you will not want to miss that. Folks, hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Hell to the Washington Commanders. And with that said, we will see you in the next one.